Be very intimate. It's a conversation between the residents talking about the issues that we're finding in traffic, and then getting a chance to hear from the elected officials. But first, I wanted to introduce Celia Balzer, Celia Warren. Here's Celia, Catherine Schatz, and Lee Morgan. They're the three residents who have been leading this effort. They've knocked doors, they contacted one, they've collected petition signatures about all the issues we've had. They've been on rides with Joseph, and Jennifer. So they've been working on this process for quite a while. So what I would like to do is I want to introduce some of the elected officials who are here. So since I just mentioned Jennifer is here. Okay. Yeah, Yoga is right there. He is the director of DPW, and Chris. Say your last name, Chris. Jarapu, thank you. They're from DPW. David Cookson, Department of Transportation is here. Jennifer Wu, where are you? There she is. Also from DPW. Francesca Graham from the Howard County Public Schools Transportation. Over there, thank you. And we've got Sharon Bailey, where's Sharon? She's here for Delegate Jerry Hill. Thank you very much, Sharon. Casey Sherman, Assistant Principal, Stevens Forest. Where's Casey? Casey, thank you. Jeffrey Fink, there he is. I just told everyone to behave. I said there's principals. Everybody behave. So you don't?
No, see, come out for a bad thing, you're gonna reel that.
So we have April Reach, did I say that right? April? Yes, April's there. She's also with Oakland Mills High School PTSA president. She's doing this on work. Johan, say it? Jahanta, okay. Say it. Jahanta Stevie, Howard County Public Schools. Jessica Feldmark sitting right in front of me. Bill McCormick, where's Bill? Great man, there is Bill Marley Ford. Felix Bacchini, who is here from Howard Ball's office. Felix, did I say your name right? Thank you. And Stuart Hammond, where's Stuart? Right here. Oh, you don't find it. There he is. Everybody on that. Okay. So what we're going to do is Celia has a short presentation. She's going to do talking about our issues. And then what we've done is we've taken names of people who want to speak, who are here tonight on the resident side. We'll give everybody a couple minutes to speak. And then once you're done speaking, we're going to hear from the elected officials to respond to the things that we've talked about. Does anybody have any questions? Celia, you want to go ahead and do your presentation?
So my friend Bridget and I worked on this together, and with a little help from the technology of a younger person, my daughter, and helping with the actual PowerPoint itself. But the initiative is that she need advice about Oakland Mills that heard about very often about serious problems, including accidents in the Stevens Forest Circle, and the meeting is an opportunity to hear some of the solutions that we come up with to the circle, at least throw some ideas out for discussion. Overall, we find that failure to yield and excessive speed are a big problem in the circle, probably the most blatant problem. So we begin with the first 3 slides, which are pictures of the Jeffers Hill Circle, which is nearby. It's also a fairly small circle. I don't know if the traffic division would classify it as a mini circle, but it's about the same circumference as Stevens. And we would like to use this as a model showing what a really effective circle looks like and how it's operating so well. So as you see in the first slide, the circle is very well marked. There's good warning. The vehicles are warned, and drivers that are warned, even if they're on slope. There is a slight drop off. It's all of them. And the circle itself has 2 levels. There's a bi-level, the central island, and an outer island. And very good markings, very obviously painted bright gold, bright white, very visible. And, if you go to the next slide, this would be the. You can see that there are these, I don't know if you can see what that red circle is, that's a, I believe that's called a chevron sign. It's sort of, am I right? Yeah. And it points direction, so to keep someone aware that it's a circular path. And we thought those were wonderful, and I don't believe we have them in the students' course, so we really like to have those. We think that that would help with, the driver being aware of where it's just doing stuff. If we could go to the next slide. So, this is another view of the multi-level circle, and the yield sign being so visible, and our yield sign seems to share whole with, the circle signs, and they're not as visible, they're not, highlighted. That was one reason why we took that picture and made it a view of our yield sign, because yielding is a problem. And Bridget backing up on my screen. Okay, so if we could go to the next slide. So this is an example of the speed hump that's used in the Jefferson system. At least on two approaches, I noticed there was a speed hump. And it does slow down the traffic. And if it's not loud, like you don't hear a lot of noise from it, it's kind of gentle, and it seems to be very effective. And the next slide shows, we go to the next slide, thank you. Just an example of how the markings are so bright and easily seen. And then the circle sign is posted just right, you know, as far as alerting the driver, they know what's coming and what to expect. So we like the markings in the signs. And if you go to the next slide, this is an example of how the curb is very thickly striped. And there's pedestrian islands. There are several pedestrian islands, in fact. And you can see one in the center there. It's just it's a direction, striping, so it helps the drivers know exactly what part of the road they need to be. And I guess that's not a pedestrian island, but it is colored differently. I can see from here that there's something instead of and then the next slide, that is a pedestrian island, I believe, it connects to the park. So, excuse me, some of my terminology is a little bit, but we did do a little bit of research and tried to learn some things. But we love the way it's marked, and we love the way everything just flows. It's a beautiful flow. And then the next slide, I believe we're going to get to Steven's books. So we can go forward. Okay, that's actually part of the
Still Jefferson.
look how
Well, it's marked.
beautiful. I mean, I wanted to just stay there and like walk around it. I'm not kidding. It's a work of art. So, if we could advance it. Another view, right? So I think you would agree with me, though. It is a beautiful film. Right, so you go forward. Now, this is a lane that leads to the Jefferson Circle. I don't believe there's a speed bump there because there's not a lot of traffic. But even that one is, it's just full of signage. Chevron signage, easily visible. And it's beautiful. Okay, now let's go to, I believe now I'm starting in Stevens. Okay, so Stevens Sports does have a nice central island. However, it's level, and so since the hill drops off so quickly, cars can't really see coming up on it from northbound, southbound. I believe that it's a very sudden surprise. Even if it's marked the signs, people are frequently caught off guard. And we think such an accident, we like to see some kind of political barrier there. Alert drivers immediately, even from the hill below. that there's something happening. The obstacle in the road, you know, make us slow down.
See, real quick, this morning, white, it looks like 3 foot high white reflective stakes were put on the inside of the circle, probably 2, 3 feet inside the outer perimeter. So where your X is, what you're talking about, I saw that being installed this morning.
Well,
We didn't even have the meeting yet.
yeah, that's right. We really want that, so that's perfect. Right, good answer. All right. And so, let's see, Brian, let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, this was approaching the surface line, I believe it's on the Ninth Street. It's one of the smallest streets that's in the circle. It's placed well and everything, but we think, we had an idea, I don't know if this was by the rules, but we think that it's a little far from this drive. The driver's over here, and there's that lane, and it's fine. We were wondering since there's a meeting, and if the sign could be moved to the meeting. It's just a thought. We can go to the next slide. Okay, this is a place on the circle where it's always, well, I shouldn't say always, there's often water collecting. It's drainage. So I know that there's a drain under the circle. It's already been explained to us. It's already been planned for, but I think that that's a problem for cyclists when winter comes and ice. We think that in this slide, it shows the crosswalk, but there's no speed bump. So I worry about pedestrian safety. I think we're concerned about that. It's just such a busy road and there's so much fast traffic on it. So if we go forward, Bridget, please interrupt me if I'm screen. Okay, so this is something we were thinking a lot about. This is the circle sign going southbound on Stevens Road. It's the first time you see a circle. And so Catherine and I paced it off, and it looked like over 300 paces from that sign to the circle. And I don't know about you guys, but by the time I see that circle and then I drive down the road a little bit, I've completely forgotten about the circle. You know, I'm just busy driving. Yeah. And also, you notice that if there are cars parked there, you can't really even see it. And there's a lane for parking, and then there's another lane for maybe cyclists or something. And so the cars are over here by the evening. I think it's not visible. And Bridget and I had, we were thinking that switching maybe that sign to the evening, and that's why they just a thought. We think that would really help to make it obvious. We think that perhaps that circle sign might be too far. Good. All right, so then we have on the next slide. We thought this sign was a little ambiguous, although I have seen other circles with the same sign. We were wondering if there's something like yields traffic in circle and a big circle sign indicating that all streets are equal, that Stevens Force is taking priority over other streets. It's just a thought we have. And then we would like to just replace that sign with two on the back or something similar. And we go to the next one. Thank you. So anyway, I'm going to have to get a little closer. I think for this. And I'm sure you can't see those. So these are good things about Jeffers Hill. Is that raised circle in the middle, clear signage, wonderful signage, wide lines for traffic control, lots of safety islands, speed limits are posted and signs are adjusted for the pitch of the hill. You can see what's coming out. And speed hump, it's great. It's just great. And it's not loud. We stood there, and listened, and cars went over it and gentle. We proceeded in the circle. Right, and if we could have the next slide. Thank you. So solutions for, this is not, the one on the right is, solutions for our, Stevens Forest. So, large circle sign on the top says it should be on the driver's side and not on the right, so that they can see yield traffic in circles. And then, the next one's the pickets, which are already there apparently, so. On the central island. And having the two levels is really great, even if it's just an inch or two higher, just something to delineate. And then the restriping with reflector discs, perhaps, so that even at night you can see it. And then, see if something can be done about the drainage issues on the south side of the circle, the south edge, leading towards Broken Land. And reflectors on the crosswalk, I think would be really helpful. And then finally, the chevron signs, we really need those. They were such an advantage in the others. So anyway, those are some of the things that we've been thinking about. I think Bridget is have I covered everything? Okay. Additional ideas, or maybe we want to talk about speed humps, a bunch of times, but speed cameras, you know, a lot of people are thinking about trying to get some speed cameras along there to control speed, and perhaps a little more police enforcement when possible. When we notice speeders, we're still having a lot of trouble with that. And we have streets there, so politically, could you speak up?
Yes, you
Sorry.
a little bit on that.
When did I start trailing off?
You're gonna be just wherever you are, you're speaking a little bit.
This part, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, speed humps, forget those, because I've already mentioned that 5 times, so. We want them, but I don't have to talk about them. 24-hour speed cameras on Stevens Forest Road would be helpful if we're gonna manage it, because speeding happens round the clock, especially after dark. And then, more police enforcement, frankly. We want it. And we don't think we're gonna be the ones getting the tickets, so. All right, well, thank you.
Oh, see, mention about the water that after 3 days you went and looked at it again around the circle.
Yes, that was that drainage thing, where I think, yeah, well, around Stevens Forest Circle, that one part, it's always wet. And then, it rained really heavy, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna go take a look at this,
3 days.
and I waited 3 days, and the water was still wet.
There was always a water problem at that intersection long before they started working on that circle. They just never corrected anything.
Well, that's good to know, I have no idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's always been a problem.
Always
On
ice
top of
there.
the grassy island, yes, that has always been a problem. The circle is just only exacerbated it because now the water runs across Stevens Forest and freezes.
Do you live right near there?
I'm on a hill, but I'm
Yeah.
at that circle at least twice a day.
Okay.
I'm on a corner and I agree with her.
And I personally, all of the problems that have been there have all been created by that circle. The speed hump on, over by the other one, the speed hump was there long before the circle was. Because the school.
Right.
I drive up and down Farewell Road ever since you put the speed bumps in. I have had cars pass me on the left. Because they don't like the fact that I'm going too slow. I drive a wheelchair accessible wheel. I can't take those humps at 20 miles an hour. I have to take them at 10, 15. And if I had a boy going up Farewell, I try to, but it doesn't always work. All of these changes that have been made only increase the dangerousness of drivers.
So we're capturing all of this, Brigitte, I'm not sure if we're recording.
I got it all down.
Yeah, whatever information you guys have that you want to share, if you want to like that, you got stuff written down so that we can make sure we share everything.
Fran, I live at the corner in Farewell and Stevens Forest. I really appreciate all the suggestions you're making. I will say that the circle, because I've lived on that corner for 18 years, the circle has really reduced serious accidents at that intersection. There used to be serious accidents once or twice a year, and the circle has helped a lot. So improving the circle would be great.
Thank you. All right. Never know.
And I drive that, sir, and I drive that into second numerous times.
You speak up.
I've never seen an accident or heard of an accident at that corner.
Before the circle, I saw them all the time. Some of one, the last word, when, before they put the circle in, ripped the front off of the entire car and said 3-piece meal.
Today, because I was trying to go now, I got to slam my brakes on the circle.
Okay, so you guys, I think it would be a good idea, ladies, thank you so much. What I would like is I would like to give people an opportunity to speak. We've got a list every week. What we did was we let everybody sign in as they arrived. So then first come, first served. And then there are probably some people, I don't know if you can see, we've got a lot of people online. We want to also give them a chance to speak. So Celia's going to talk about her very specific ways. And then Catherine, and then Manjeet, and then, I'll get the next people on the list.
I'm online. May I say something, please? I don't know if I'm the only person, but I sent a chat and I don't know if anybody was going to respond. I'm having tremendous difficulty understanding many of the participants tonight without the assistance of a microphone. It looks as if it's beautifully put together with the share screen and everything, but without the use of a mic, I'm having difficulty really picking up on other than a few words here and there. So I didn't want to interrupt, but I know this is very important. It's important to me. I'm a resident in Swan Point, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much for attending. Brigitte, I don't know if is there a microphone included with the camera?
It's here, which
Oh,
is,
okay.
yeah, so it is, you do have to speak up, unfortunately.
We don't have a
We don't
mic.
have an
We
owl
don't have a
that
mic.
points directly to each person, we're not that high tech at the other barn. We're pretty high tech, we're not that high tech.
So what we're gonna do for the people who are online, what I'm gonna ask is we really wanted this to be an intimate conversation, so I can tell people you could stay at your seats. If you're comfortable, if you could come up when I call your name, Cecilia, if you could talk right here next to the mic, then the people online can hear, because I'm assuming you can hear me pretty clearly. Pamela, can you hear me? Was that you who was saying you couldn't hear? She's first.
Thank you
Okay,
anyway for your efforts. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Celia, so if you'll come over here, have your piece, and then Catherine, and then Manjeet, if you'll come over and talk.
So this is
Yeah, that's the mic.
Mhm. Yes, I apologize for being quiet. I told Karen that I didn't have a big enough voice and she said I did, so I'll try to be louder, right? So I live on Camelback Lane. I don't know if any of you folks are familiar with that, but it loops around, right? And there's a traffic light between Camelback, each end of Camelback, and we think that perhaps some people are using it as a joyride street. So it's very curvy and windy and hilly. And I would imagine if you were into that sort of thing, you could go fast on that street and get a thrill out of it. Unfortunately, it's very bad for the people who live there. So the biggest problem, I believe, is the all-way stop at Santiago, Stevens Forest, and Camelback. So drivers are not stopping for the stop sign, especially ones turning right, going on to Santiago. They just roll on through. And I worry about the children crossing there. There are a lot of children on those streets at arrival and dismissal and other times of the day and night. And I worry about their safety. There's a 15, I don't know what percent grade, but Camelback is very steep when it enters the intersection. So I think it's really hard to be seen when you're waiting to come in. You stop, you start out. My car was hit there and totaled a couple of years ago. I was driving and it was a terrifying experience. And I entered the intersection, I was 3/4 of the way across and someone rammed right into me. And so luckily I wasn't hurt and, cars can be replaced, but, it could have been a different scenario. So that's kind of what got me started thinking about this. This is serious. We have to do something about these problems. There is a crosswalk at Camelback, Santiago, and Stevens Forest. So I would imagine that that's where pedestrians should be crossing, but it's not safe. You have to walk at a very fast pace to get across that intersection. Someone who's not fit could not do it. And people are not willing to wait. They'll just start driving and you have to outrun them. So it's very scary. Solutions. I'm sticking my neck out here, but I'm thinking we ought to be working on getting a traffic light there. That's really the only thing that's gonna stop people. I think they're just, if you have a stop sign, they're just gonna go through it, so I think we need a traffic light. There's a new store that's being built and with a gas station, I understand, so that's gonna increase traffic on Stevens Forest. And so there's gonna be a higher volume of traffic once that thing opens. I think we need some pedestrian islands. And instead of the island that we have there at this point, and I think we need a flashing crossing sign that really alerts drivers that someone's in the intersection. That's about what I wanted to say. Does anyone have any comments or quick questions? Yes.
My neighbor here in front of my house, I didn't appreciate that, but I said, I missed that meeting. That intersection is in the best of the seems. I don't have any problem around here, I'm not a bad person. Make sure I make eye contact, sometimes they're put it on the right number, but I've seen people jump for the red lights. It doesn't matter where you are, it's just a matter of making eye contact and making sure that. Hopefully, when they do, they even tend to use it, so someone's gonna not stop and provide it across over the time. And my daughter will be at the side of the truck and right outside that. Because I was paying attention, not stop, and they should have gone. Bad person. But no, I gotta pay you. But it's very good, so. You know, what are you gonna do? The finance place by my house, 10 miles an hour.
Okay. Thank you. So I know where that sign is. I can picture that. I'm sorry it's in front of your house. I'm hoping it would change the behavior or at least adjust the behavior of some of the cars.
Thank you, Celia.
Thank you.
I want to make sure that every single person gets a chance to have their say, so we have a long list of people that want to talk, so if you guys have questions and things like that, if you guys could kind of hold those for a little bit so that we can get everybody in, so go ahead, Catherine. Okay.
Good evening, thanks for coming. It was a very cold and blustery January 2nd this year, 2024. And Lee and I decided that we were going to see how many cars yielded going north and south on the circle, Stevens Forest. And so our teeth were chattering, but it was an amazing status and the surveillance. But what we found was within less than 45 minutes, both northbound and southbound, over 300 cars not only did not yield, but they never slowed down. Okay, going north and south. It was like 300 in less than 45 minutes. So I counted them. I think there were 2 people that one person stopped and 2 other people slowed down. But I come off of that. I live off of Farewell, and it's just suicidal. And there'll be some more talk about what happened, what the accidents have been having lately, right there at that circle. We were hoping to have Calvin Ball and Opal Jones here. We're appreciative of having the other gentleman here representing him, and also Sergeant Doer was very helpful. Anyway, the important issues for me are the high speeds, and I don't think I live on Boring Lane, which is off of Farewell. But what I find is it's not just once. We can't tell the policemen just come, and they come every day, every time at 3 o'clock. I have clocked them and written out copious notes. That the drag racers are a part of a team, a part of a club. They come on Stevens Forest back and forth from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. Then they come about 12 to 1. And then the more dangerous time is when school is letting out. They come around 2:30 to 3:30. And this is every day, Monday through Friday. And then when I'm just trying to go to sleep, and I'm a musician and I have really good ears, even though it's quite a ways away, they start up, I have to wear earplugs in my house with the air on. They start up between 11 and go to 2 a.m. every freaking night. Excuse me, that really is like, I went on Speak Out for the CA, and one lady says, yeah, they wake my baby up every night, they're so loud. And so that's just, and part of it is the ear splitting mufflers. I need to talk to some policemen to see if those are illegal. Okay, but they're getting better at it. And there's a high percentage of drivers that run the stop sign. We already talked about this at the intersection of Stevens Forest, Camelback, and so I won't belabor that. And I already talked about the cars failing. The other thing I wanted to point out is that we're sort of renaming ourselves the Citizens Traffic Committee of Oakland Mills. Has a nice ring to it. Has been working on this problem since 2021. And so if I have a little bit of angst about it, it's because we haven't had the support. And we've been knocking on doors and writing 200 letters for every person that's executive. But we really want these issues, I feel they must be addressed in the 2024 calendar. Whether we have the solutions, they've got to be addressed. We just keep getting reasons why we can't all the time. And I was going to go into the speed cameras, but Jen Wu was explaining that maybe you can do that afterwards, that Howard County is not. How do you word it?
Under state legislation, Howard County can only have speed cameras in the automated speed enforcement zones in the schools and in work zones on state highways. That was the 2009 legislation in, I wasn't here at the time. You know, Howard County was hoping to get the speed cameras. They did not. Other counties like Prince George's County, Montgomery County, they were grandfathered in. So I know the questions of how come some people have them and some people don't. That is not something on the DPW side that we can make happen, that is a legislation type thing. My advice is if you would, you know, continue to pursue that is to contact your district representative. I know in years past, the other district representatives, and I believe, Dr. Jones as well, have.
Oval Jones.
Yes, I don't know if they've tried to pass council bills or if they've approached, you know, on the state level. I know they had interest in it. So I would say, you know, as a community, if you could, I would encourage you to, you know, contact his office to continue to work with the other district representatives to try to make movement on that.
But at current in Annapolis, there's no bill that's started for Howard County.
So no, I couldn't tell you.
I just wanted to say that we really could use more police surveillance. They can't be everywhere. I was thrilled when I found out that we were going to have after years and years, 4 specific police people designated to work on traffic. But then I found out we have 4 districts, south, north, east, and west. Oakland Mills is in the southern. But when I said, well, why aren't you guys coming more often? They go, well, it's really big. It's a huge, am I right? That the southern district, I don't know how many villages. Do you have any idea how many villages in the, sir? Anyway, and so they can't be everywhere, but I would love it if we could budget more for more police and even give them a raise, because they are in the most dangerous time right now. Even when they try to stop someone, arrest them, it is incredibly dangerous. We saw one policeman was trying to stop on a drag racing team not too long ago, and he didn't have any backup, and they all surrounded him completely, all the draggers. So he didn't even get out of his car. So that's just my feeling. And my son-in-law is a detective, and I have great respect and great admiration for the job they do, but they need to get paid more and they need more of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Manjeet, do you wanna have your sign? Yeah, if you could, yeah, just speak up and.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything, Chief, thank you so much for bringing me here, so I could just kind of explain what happening in the circle, but we live on Stone, right? We take Fairville Road all the time. And we take the circle around, I would say 8 times a day at least. If I'm not going anywhere else other than dropping the kids off and picking them up. And as Celia and Catherine, everybody explained the same situation that I feel, as I see every day, all the time. Traffic coming especially from Broken Land, they feel like they don't have to stop. It seems like a straight line for them. They don't have a need to stop or slow down. And we go extra slow just to make sure that anybody entering from any other street, they are fully stopped before I can continue going on my circle. So, I mean, you guys covered everything really well, so and we just had an accident 3 weeks ago. Yeah, we were just trying to merge in our circle and from Fairwell, we were in the circle and somebody coming from Broken Land side and they never think that they need to stop or slow down. Keep continue going and try honking at us, scared us for a second and then bumped into us. And then didn't really stop to share the information. But that can happen multiple times in a day because I feel like when I bring in kids home from school, I think you said around like afternoon time, same thing happened today. I was going super slow. I knew the person was not gonna stop coming from Broken Land. I was very, very slow. If I had gone with my regular speed with 15 or less 15, that person would have hit me today. But it just happens all the time. So, and the solutions you guys are talking about seems like it will quickly work. And the steep speed bumps, especially in the Broken Land side on the Stephen Forest Road, both sides, hopefully that would be a good solution to slow them down.
Thank you, Benji.
Thank you so much.
Bridget, Bridget today, do you wanna talk? And then Lee, are you gonna talk?
If we have time,
Okay,
I
you'll
would
do
really
it.
like for my other Kilimanjaro.
Okay.
Yeah,
They'll probably cover it all.
yeah, Bridget Madani speaking about the Stevens Forest Broken Land roundabout. It's like a broken record. On March 21st at 1:15 p.m. a Thursday afternoon, I was going on Stevens Forest towards Broken Land. And I was honestly, this is gonna be very honest, and I hope the police aren't gonna arrest me. I was unaware of any signs at all alerting me to the roundabout. So I was going about 30 or 35 miles an hour. The traffic limit right there is 30. It was, I felt, a normal speed, a normal, rather conservative maybe. And as I went up the incline, suddenly I saw the intersection with the roundabout. There was no traffic in the roundabout, so I didn't know it was a roundabout. And I proceeded, I thought I had the right of way, as we did for decades on Stevens Forest. And then suddenly on the left, a white truck, a big white truck, crested on Fairwell. And I thought it was going to stop because there was a stop sign there for the 40 years I lived in Columbia. So I assumed I had the right of way. I didn't even slow down. The traffic circle is almost completely flat with some red bricks. It looks pretty. And I didn't have a clue that it was a traffic circle. So I realized suddenly that the white truck was not going to stop. I had about literally 2 seconds to come to that realization and slam on the brakes. If I had been going 40 or 45, I could not have done that. The truck couldn't do it because it was going gangbusters. And it was a heavyish truck, a lot of momentum. If I had not been able to stop where I did, I might not be standing here today because it would have been a T-bone collision with the truck going right into the driver's door. It was the worst near collision I've had in probably 15 years of driving. It was terrifying. Now, I was at fault because I should have been aware of the roundabout, but the incline was such, I could not see it until I was right there. The fact it was level suggested to me that it was just a big intersection with some pretty red bricks. So that was a very, very near call for me. I realized later there was signage. It's that sign that's way back about 3 blocks that Celia pointed out with the circle arrows. But it's so far to the right, it's not in the driver's line of vision because there's another lane and a parking lane and then an extra width. It's way over there. And it's so early, you think, well, what's that about? The next sign that's there is the one that says Night Hill Road and Farewell. And then there's this thing that goes like this. So it was actually a distraction. It was worse than nothing. You're thinking, what the heck is that? So I'm thinking, but that would be a perfect place to put the circle sign with the arrows alerting you to the roundabout. The distance is very good, enough that you can start to be cautious. The Jeffers Hill, that was not the first time I've been through that roundabout. I had been through it about 2 or 3 months earlier. The first time I went over part of the red brick because I was going straight. There was no traffic there either, so that didn't clue me in. It was a roundabout. The second time was a week later, and I was cautious and I went carefully around it. But that was months earlier. In March, I didn't have a clue. I was not thinking about it, and it was suddenly there. The Jeffers Hill, I live in Jeffers Hill neighborhood. That is a recent traffic circle, and it works really, really well. I use it a great deal. I've never seen anybody have a problem with it. The double lines guide you to the right. The chevron signs are wonderful. You know, that's 2 V's, meaning circle. There's one for each street entrance, so everybody knows to go that way. It has a well-placed traffic circle sign. The distance is really good. There's a slight hump telling you be cautious. And the pedestrian islands are shaped to force you to go right. So all of those suggestions I thought were wonderful. And I compliment the traffic division for having constructed the Jeffers Hill roundabout so well with the signage and the striping and the raised center. It has a raised center with a curve, brightly painted curve. So I thank you for that. And please, if you do that at Stevens Forest. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything about either of you want to speak? No? Okay, Judy, were you gonna speak? No? Stu?
Do I really need to come up to the microphone?
No.
Thanks for having the meeting, those who are there. Mr. Fink, I had your job and it's great to be retired. But I think, we all know what the problem is. I think we need to concentrate on solutions and solutions that are outside of the box. I wrote to somebody a couple of years ago and said, this is a category so-and-so and doesn't require this. A bucket of reflective paint at Lowe's or at Home Depot is $235. And I bet you we could collect it right here and get somebody to paint something that will catch our eye. We're all taxpayers, so we don't want to add to taxpayers' burden by getting blinking lights that are in the traffic circle. Though it might help, there have been accidents. I'm not only a driver here, but I'm one of those crazy guys on a bicycle. And I see an awful lot of stuff happening, especially at Whiteacre and Thunder Hill, where the stop sign is only a suggestion. What scared the absolute you-know-what out of me is when a semi was coming down from 175 to the village center, with a load on his back and didn't even pretend to stop. So semi one, cyclist nothing? Okay? What I would challenge is another out of the box solution. Mr. Fink, I know you've got creative kids in your school because my kids went there years ago. What about a PSA announcement made by the kids of Oakland Mills High School to be put on our cable in Howard County about how to drive a roundabout?
I will volunteer our TV class.
There you go. There's a solution. I think, look, the police department in this county is absolutely wonderful. I tip my hat to you guys. Only on days that end in Y. Okay? I wouldn't want your job as much as you wouldn't want mine. But I know that a close working relationship between the police and the citizens is necessary. I think that we just need to think outside of the box, putting some reflective paint around the Stevens Forest Circle, having a PSA announcement. And yeah, we're gonna have some people monitor that intersection that I just mentioned and the other streets. The people are already on the force. They're already here. The guys for DPW already have their jobs. We can paint. It's not a massive expenditure that we're looking for, but common sense solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Stu. You're not gonna speak? Sally Blaze, are you gonna speak? No? Okay. Paula from Missing, are you? Well, is Paula?
I'm right here.
Oh, you're not gonna say, oh, Paul, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I wanna get through some more Oakland Mills residents. Is Devin Brown, or did you wanna speak? You're good? Sharon Kavanaugh, you wanna speak? Jill Crane? Yes, no? Carol Freeman? Bob Farmer? There we go.
Yeah, I, in my mind, the, only thing that's gonna help the situation is to have speed bumps right before you approach the circle. Is because people are going too fast, and that's the only thing that'll slow them down. So I'm all for speed bump.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Adele Abramowitz, would you like to speak?
Yes.
Do you want to come up by the microphone?
All right, since we've already pretty much hashed out the circle part, I also had an incident today at that circle. I came to my deal, somebody coming at it, very well, as it usually is, just barrels in like they've got the right of way. Fortunately, I was already at the yield, so I was able to prevent another accident from happening. But moving on, another point that I want to bring up is what I've seen going on is the curb cuts and how they are aligned in the intersections. Next time you're at an intersection, take a look at the way they're angled. They are angled so that the person in the wheelchair, when he comes off, would go into the line of traffic of the road on the side, instead of going from, corner to corner where the crosswalks are, they angle out. Very dangerous when especially you're in a electric wheelchair and you don't have a whole lot of control over turnings. Another, someone was talking about bike lanes. They are inconsistent. They stop and end willy-nilly. When you're coming up to the Stevens Forest Circle, the bike lane ends. Where do you go?
Yes.
There's no way for the bikes to get around them. And stuff. And then we have the Oakland Mills debacle. You took a perfectly good 4-lane road and turned it into a 2-lane. Today, I saw one person jogging in that lane and a truck parked in it. Since it's been included, I've only seen a handful of bicyclists, one of which was on the other side of Oakland Mills because he wanted to drive with traffic the way he was taught. The speed and red light counters on Broken Land Parkway, when you're making that turn onto Stevens Forest, They take pictures regardless of what's going on. Constantly taking pictures. When I had an accident at that intersection, did I have the cameras to help me? No. They weren't working, I was told. The light timing, for when you want to make that left turn onto Stevens Forest from Broken Land Parkway in rush hour. It only lets 4 car lengths to go through. Meanwhile, at the one at the Cradle Rock, non-rush hour, they'll let 8 or 9 cars through. The timing needs to be fixed on those and stuff. The traffic light, Little Patuxent Parkway and Broken Land Parkway, ever since they made all those construction changes, you now have a red arrow. That traffic backs all the way up, blocking mainline traffic because there's so many cars are trying to make that turn. And that right turn lane isn't big enough for them, which causes problems when you're trying to get through on Broken Land Parkway. And then if we want to talk about people crosswalking, I don't know, but when I was a little girl, there was a campaign, cross at the corner, not in between, look both ways. I don't see that happening anymore. I see people with their faces in their phones just walk off the curb and expect everybody to come to a complete stop. They need to be trained on how to cross streets. We know we have to stop for pedestrians in the crosswalks and stuff, but that doesn't mean that when they're 4 to 5 feet away, that we should be able to read their minds and figure out whether or not they're going to cross that street or not. They need to be educated on how to properly and safely cross streets and stuff. There's a whole lot of backing up traffic all over Columbia and stuff, and a lot of it is because of all these changes. And when, I don't know if anybody realizes this, but a lot of people, they get very impatient. Like I mentioned before, since the speed humps, I drive a wheelchair van. I have a lowered floor. I cannot take those speed humps at anything more than 10, maybe 12 miles an hour. I have to slow down. But I have cars passing me on the left, crossing the double yellow line constantly because I'm too slow for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Is Irene Sims here? Irene, did you want to speak?
I sure do.
Can you guys hear me okay? If you come up here, this is the microphone right here. Yeah.
All right. I've got my family online too. I live on Kilimanjaro and I'm hoping you kind of turn the conversation to Kilimanjaro.
You can talk about Kilimanjaro, go for it.
Excellent. Fairwell, Thunder Hill Road have 6 traffic speed bumps. Kilimanjaro has none. We have 2 schools. And we have a lot of kids who speed. We have a lot of people who speed on the way to Bland Air to and from events. And personally, it's just gotten out of control. I've had people pass me as I back out of my driveway. They honk at me if I'm driving the speed limit. It's incredibly dangerous. We've seen cars drive up on the grass in the developments across the street because they can't make the turn because they're going so fast. I was on the traffic committee many years ago, and we just gave up. So I feel like maybe there's an opportunity here to make a difference and make a change. I feel like there's good energy here, but Kilimanjaro has not gotten the attention it needs. With Bland Air being developed and all the traffic coming from Bland Air, Kilimanjaro is a throughway. And then it feeds to the traffic circle on Stevens Forest and the light at Camelback and whatever the other road is near the village center. It's all creating this issue. So I think Kilimanjaro needs desperate attention. I'm all for the speed light cameras. I know I get the deal, but maybe a sign with, saying 25 miles an hour, right in front of the school. I don't know, but I don't have many solutions, but I'm here to help if we can.
Thank you, Irene. We appreciate it. Okay, I want to give people online a chance, but before we do, I want to ask Gretchen Overduff, who's from Owen Brown, she has something important to share, which I think will kind of inform this group a little bit about how serious we are. So Gretchen, do you want to, are you okay coming up here to talk by the microphone?
Oh, sure.
Thank
I
you.
don't have that loud enough voice.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. I didn't realize this was going to be an Oakland Mills meeting, but I was so
That's fine.
grateful for the opportunity to share something that happened in our community. A lot of the problems that you are expressing, we have the same thing. And some of your suggestions are the same ones that I would make as well. But I wanted to share with you, I live in the Pine Point of Lake Elkhorn. And our community is directly across from the Owen Brown Village Center and the Giant. A lot of people walk over there. On November 12th of last year, our neighbor, Mr. Thomas Lee, was walking his dog. He entered the street at the crosswalk, and as he did, a car came along, proceeded to come along, hit him and his dog, and both of them were killed. This is the third pedestrian fatality from our neighborhood. And we are very concerned about this. Shortly thereafter, bright green signs appeared along Cradle Rock. We have 2 schools and we have a playground. And those signs are very much appreciated. There are signs also in the middle of the crosswalk. However, the one by the Giant is constantly being hit. And then pieces of the sign stick out into the oncoming traffic. I noticed that the trucks bringing goods to the Giant grocery store have a difficult time turning into the driveway there because of the sign that's in the middle of the street. So clearly, a better solution is needed at that particular location. We have speeding vehicles and drag racing that occur on regular occurrences, day, night, along Cradle Rock Way, and also on Broken Land Parkway. And I just think that tough measures are needed if you're going to change the behaviors of people. So we would like to see the presence of a full-time patrol car stationed in the parking lot at the Giant to maybe go after these speeders and issue citations. We think speed cameras would help, but I understand that that's not maybe feasible. But definitely speed bumps and maybe some fluorescent paint in the street on those speed bumps. The road does curve a little bit, and you know, people just don't pay attention to any of the markings. Unless there are penalties, these drivers are not going to change their behaviors. So finally, to assist those who want to walk over to the Giant, consider a blinking crosswalk sign, just maybe something small on the side of the street that the walkers could activate when they want to cross the street. They would have so many seconds to get across. Maybe if we had something like that, drivers would pay attention. I know in some communities, there are strips across the road with blinking lights. I don't know that we'll be able to do such measures, but we need to have something because, as I said, we have 2 schools and a playground on that street. And it has become a thoroughfare, very much like Stevens Forest. Columbia was designed to be a walking community, but our streets have become unsafe for pedestrians. Please let the death of Mr. Lee and the other 2 individuals be the motivation to take whatever steps are necessary to make our streets safe again. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to give a couple people online. Alma, are you there? Did you want to speak up? Alma, you're.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, so my stories are very similar to a lot of the ones you guys have told already. I live on Kilimanjaro on the side that's closer to Oakland Mills. Yeah, there's been, my boyfriend lives with me and works at home, and we can both attest that like all hours of the day there will be cars going maybe sometimes probably like 65 miles an hour going down Kilimanjaro, either headed towards Oakland Mills or headed towards Stevens Forest, and a lot of the same noise complaints as well. I had an incident fairly recently where I was driving within reason above the speed limit, so somewhere just below like the 10-mile mark, like definitely not holding up traffic whatsoever. There was a vehicle in front of me that was getting ready to turn off to the right, so I slowed down because that, they're making a turn, so I did not want to hit them, so I was responsible and slowed down. I had these two vehicles. One of them was a Charger and the other one was some other kind of muscle car. They crossed over the double yellow lane and then sped down the road on the right side, probably going 65 at least. So I've seen a lot of dangerous driving. So even if you're not, going below the speed limit, there's definitely aggressive driving. And yeah, that's just to kind of foot stop it. A lot of the solutions sound very reasonable to me that have been put forward. I know maybe there's some consternation about speed bumps on Kilimanjaro. But I have actually adjusted my time that I leave for work and come home because it is also rather difficult for me to get out of my driveway, especially around like peak times, just having to wait, So thanks for hearing me out. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jonna. When we I want to get a couple more people, and then we're gonna switch to hear from officials. Janice, you live on Santia, you live on Kilimanjaro. Did you want to talk? She's quiet.
Gardenia?
Who is it?
Gardenia Jackson.
Oh, Gardenia, do you want to speak? Go ahead.
Yes, I do. Hello, good evening. Yes, I also live on Kilimanjaro. My husband and I and our family are the fourth house down from Stevens Forest, so we're across from the open field. And we moved in 2017, and literally as soon as we came in, it was like, oh my God, why did we move here? Because of all of the traffic that we didn't realize when we moved into our home. Similar to a lot of what people have said. But I'm just taking this time to share because, it has been a concern. We tried when we first came in, and it was like, hey, there's flashing lights during school hours. Everybody knows that flashing light. First of all, it only flashes during the beginning of school and when they're let out. What about the other hours of the day? And I live right across from that street from the flasher. And, my husband and I have witnessed people aggressively driving up from Stevens Forest. It's like as soon as they turn right onto Kilimanjaro, it's like, ooh, raceway. I literally put my flashers on to turn into my house. And I've had people honk at me. We've both had people almost hit us because we're merely slowing down to turn into our own street, turn onto our own driveway. I have actually also, with accountability, it's not just the traffic of people's personal vehicles. I have seen Howard County buses fly down Kilimanjaro. So the accountability is not just on the people who are using our neighborhood as a pass-through, it's also those people who are driving the buses. The bus goes past Kilimanjaro several times a day, and they're not slowing down. They're picking up that pace. And again, we have small children that are students at Stevens Forest. They had to petition in the PTA, because we're on the PTA, to get just merely an extra crossing guard to be at that little roundabout right at the school, because again, the same issue with it's not safe for the children to cross during school hours. So, these are the things that are definitely happening. And, with all of the changes that are happening in the county with them building Bland Air, it's a huge park that, brings a lot of tournaments from all over the East Coast. I've met people from South Carolina, Florida, all coming up to Bland Air to go to lacrosse tournaments and softball tournaments. And they're also using the open field space right at the middle school. Well, people are speeding, and then it's now season. It's now lacrosse season. So every weekend it's packed with extra people coming to our neighborhood, but they're still speeding. I still see people almost get hit when they're getting out of their cars, and then it's more packed because people are parked on the street. Speed bumps. And also I wanted to address the camera situation. I take, everybody has their own path. My path to 100 is a certain path. I literally know exactly where every single speed camera is located. I know where to look for them. I see the little plot and I see the person sometimes rotating around, and I can gauge when it's on Kilimanjaro, Tamar, all the way over to Snowden. So cameras are not going to be anything that's going to be of value except to, generate revenue for Howard County. Okay. It's not, people know how to avoid them. They're very obvious. And it's not, there has to be proof. It's not getting people to really slow down, but for a nanosecond till they pass the camera and then they speed back up. So, I shouldn't have to put my flashers on to pull into my own home, but that is the safest way that I can think of so that I feel like people will at least slow down. That's the only indicator that I have used, that I have noticed people will slow down if I put my flashers on and then I go ahead and turn into my house. Other than that, I've watched my husband almost get a whole bunch of times. I've watched other people get hit, and it's just not safe. My neighbor's dog just got killed. And, because there's blind spots as well, but also people are driving too fast. And we already know this. So I just wanted to, highlight the flashers are, to me, useless if they're not going to be on except during school hours, because what about the residents who live there every day? And there has to be some physical deterrent, like a speed hump. So we advocate a speed hump because, like I said, I'm watching Howard County buses fly down Kilimanjaro every single day. So, it's not just the pedestrian drivers. So it really is dangerous. And, the concern is, how many more people have to get hit, killed? We just heard about this other accident over by the Village Center. How many more people need to get hit? This neighborhood is built in 1972. Look at the amount of people who still live here, who have moved in, and all of the traffic that is being brought in from Blandair and all of these different competitions that are being used in our neighborhood, but we are still the ones suffering. And no one is taking action to address the Oakland Mills area for the needs that it needs, from the traffic, from the high school and all the stuff they got going on. They're ignoring us. We feel ignored, and it needs to change. We are taxpayers. We live here. We love living in Columbia, but we have to feel like we are valued citizens living here. And this is where I feel, as a resident, and my husband is saying, we do not feel that. We shouldn't be 25, 30 years in begging for speed humps. Like, this is ridiculous. So I just wanted to share that, because it's just not okay. So what has to happen? And I feel that also, if there are other areas outside of this Columbia area within Howard County, they would not have these same issues. Action would be taken faster in other areas of Howard County. So I feel that we are being dismissed for whatever reason, and it needs to stop, because we are the ones living here. We want our children to be safe. I want to be safe. I don't want to feel like I'm going to get hit just by pulling out of my driveway. So I just wanted to share that.
That's actually a perfect segue, because we've got a lot of officials here, and I want to thank them for sitting and listening, and if I've missed anybody in the audience, I'm sorry, but I want to give the officials a chance to respond since they're all here. So thank you, everyone. So I don't know, I don't have an order to call on you guys. How would you like to respond? Joseph, would you like to say anything, or how would you guys like to address some of what you guys have heard tonight?
I'll just briefly say, a
Yeah.
few comments, and then.
Can you come, I'm sorry, will you come and stand by the mic, because I want to make sure the people online here, so introduce yourself.
Yes, Joseph Cabeda, I'm the Director of the Department of Public Works. So first of all, just thank you for the invite, Catherine, Celia, and Lee. I had a chance to actually go out with the three of you, I think it was in November last year. So we could take a look at some of the locations that you have concerns about. I think this is wonderful, just a civic engagement here, and I understand the frustration. What I can say is, from our perspective as public servants, we're here to serve the public, right? And so this public has some serious concerns about safety. We are listening, and we are doing the best we can to devise the solutions that can actually mitigate the concern, the safety concern. So And I'll just ask for your patience as we continue to formulate the plans, right, and implement the plans. So with that, I know Jen has been working on some of the
Solutions?
the solutions. So maybe you can just highlight, Jen, some of the things that you've discussed with us, or
Sure.
Chris.
Or I can start, or Chris can start, or.
Yeah, if you guys are okay standing by the microphone, just make sure the people online can hear.
Yeah, I'll start. Chris Jagger, Bureau Chief of Highways for the county. I've been with the county for about 15 years now. And some of you I've worked with to do different things in Oakland Mills. I know there's some sentiment, some comments saying Oakland Mills is being forgotten. I want to correct, that statement. I mean, I know I came here to the village board many times. I worked with the village board to work on different things that we worked on. A lot of projects that we worked on, the roundabout that we're concerned about, we actually had sight distance problems there. I'm glad that somebody was here talking about how bad it used to be, because I was here like when that intersection did not have the roundabout. There were a lot of problems there. I was here before speed humps were not existent on Fairwell Drive. I was here before the bike lanes were installed on Stevens Forest. A lot of things happened within Oakland Mills with input from the community. A lot of you have provided the guidance. We came to the county, to the community to talk to you, and solutions came from here. So I'm glad today, the way you are organizing this meeting, providing some solutions or thoughts that you had is an excellent way for us to go back and look at the drawing board to see what we can do, what we can't do. Things that happen, I mean, like you said, like I think, the first bike lane that was installed in the county was actually on Stevens Forest Road. We were having conversations and then we were trying to see, okay, where do we install bike lanes? And Stevens Forest Road was an opportunity. We said, okay, there's a lot of challenges with Stevens Forest Road. There's an existing median there, there's driveways there, people get in, get out, people park on Stevens Forest Road. How can we accommodate a bike lane and provide travel lane and accommodate the parking and make sure that cars can get in, get out? Okay. We didn't want to adjust the curb line. It was going to be a larger project. We tried to see what we can do within the existing footprint of the roadway. We thought we came up with a better solution on where we can provide the bike lanes. So is the reason why there's stoppage and bike lanes. They're not continuous all the way through. We try to extend as much as we can. We try to go to basket ring, and then we try to look at where the opportunities are to provide the adequate width for a full bicycle lane and a full travel lane right next to each other. So a couple of improvements. The roundabout, for sure. I'm sure Jen is going to talk about the specifics about the roundabout. I'm glad everybody likes the roundabout at Old Montgomery and Kmart Drive by Jeffers Hill. That was a challenge in itself. There's actually a resident that lives right next to the roundabout. They had to lose a lot of property. When we come into these communities and we try to rebuild an existing roadway adjacent to properties, we're impacting those property owners that live in those corners. And we're mindful of those situations. We don't want to build something that impacts the property owners that live right in the corners. So the one property owner that lives right next to the roundabout is probably one of the best property owners that in terms of construction projects. They said, use whatever you want. That's not the common thing that we normally hear. A lot of times people say not in my yard, right? But they were glad. They said they would constantly check with us to make sure. They pushed us to get the funding for the project. We ran into some issues with utility conflicts. We ran into other challenges, but they made sure we actually carried the project through. So I don't want to take too much of your time, but I think things have been done in Oakland Mills. We're not 100% done yet. There's still a lot of work to do. We're not going away from it. We'll continue to do what we need to do. And I'll yield the time to Jen if she can talk about specifics, and if there's something that I need to jump on, I'll be here to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Yep, I'm Jen Root from the Traffic Engineering Division, and I think someone mentioned this morning that they saw the flex post go in the center island. So actually, we had talked about that before, what we can do to bring delineation to that center island. So that actually started before, they just happened to go in today before this meeting. So it's like at ESP, and there they are. there they are. Um, why flex posts and the size of the island versus Old Montgomery at Tamar? Why is it a mini versus Old Montgomery at Tamar? So the center island for that one at Tamar is about 80.5 feet in diameter. Center island for Stevens Forest at Farewell is about 56 feet, and it's fully mountable because you have to get fire trucks through, you gotta get school buses through. Tamar one has an apron to get them around. That pushes the footprint out. I keep looking at you because you live on the corner. We had to get right of way at all four corners for three of the corners for Old Montgomery and Tamar. This pushes it out so far, you would have sidewalk, curb and everything going well into the four properties on the corners. I don't think that you would like that. I don't think your neighbors would like that. As Chris was saying, we try to stay within the footprints. So the flex posts went in, we continue to look at the signage. There actually, and I'll have to see if they're still up or not, there actually is signage on the northbound side, on the right side and in the median. It's quite possible that they are knocked down. You just don't see them. There are a lot of mature trees. We do have some conflicts of location. And as far as the distance, we can take a look at it. We try to stay as close to what the federal spacing standards were for these signs. There is a sequence of warning signs that are required for roundabouts, and it's even the image. So you were talking about the diamond with the circle in it. There was the older style sign. They did change the standards, but we can continue to look at that. Other things we're looking to pilot, we don't have anywhere else in the county. It may or may not help because I think that you guys have expressed that people are deliberately not stopping or yielding, but for those who may not know or may not, especially coming, on the main line at nighttime, maybe they're not really noticing the sign. We are going to pilot retroreflective strip on the post, all the way up and down the post. Red ones for the yield signs. We're actually thinking about these for the stop signs on the main line of Stevens Forest, where I'm now going away from the roundabout, but other locations you were talking about, stop sign running, white retroreflective strips on the posts for the pedestrian crossing signs. So those have not gone in yet. I don't know if the materials are readily available, that be ordered. That is something that would be a first here on Stevens Forest Road. Camelback, I don't know if the lady's still here who was unhappy about the signs.
Yeah.
But you had asked about,
Yeah.
so we actually, you had asked about, the volumes and the cut through. So we ran ball banks studies to have a better advisory speed. I think before there were less curb advisory signs. So we ran the ball bank, that is an advisory at what a safe speed is to traverse the curb without running off the road. Some people don't know that the road curves. Other people, as you had mentioned, maybe they're joyriding. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what people's intentions are. I've seen your pictures of front yards, tire tracks. I hope the signs are helping that road, especially more than 6% because you're going to launch cars. Speaking of humps, just some information is, previously the hump policy, which is being updated now. In previous years, you could not have speed humps where you had the automated school enforcement zone because it was supposed to be one or the other. Because we thought we were going to get speed cameras in 2009, and we did not. That, makes, like I said, the speed cameras, now you can't have humps. We are actually updating the speed hump policy as well as an application platform for residents to apply for speed calming methods. It's not necessarily humps. You put in your concerns, and then there's a rating system. I don't have that ready to discuss with you yet, but that will all be available
determines that, there's a concern or a need, we will proceed with installing traffic calming measures. Not necessarily speed humps, but other traffic calming measures that would also be applied.
Yeah, I have a question. With all these speed humps, there's one negative. As they get older, you cannot see them. The signs sometimes are right on top of them, but you're sort of turning a curve. Have you thought about reflecting paint actually on the speed humps so that you can see them from a distance?
There,
Yeah, we actually install reflective markings on the hump itself. That's something that we do.
When? I mean, really?
Yeah, we actually have them now.
Well, they wash it away.
Yeah, so
right.
right, if there are locations that we need to go back and refresh them, we will go back and refresh them.
Right, I mean, feel free to call our office to let us know. We can't always know. We actually rely on residents to tell us
Okay.
where something might be
I suggest
dated.
farewell room. Anything else to help with the speed hump?
Is that C-click fix, like if they use?
Yes,
C-click
C-Click Fix is a good one to mention. Oh, so speaking of pavement markings, I know you were talking about the pavement markings leading up to and around the roundabout. We yearly refresh our lane line markings, and that has actually started this season already. So that's countywide. The trucks come through and we put out a notice like, hey, don't pass the paint trucks. They'll do that. So they will be refreshed. They start east and go west. They've already started this season. And again, if you see spot locations though, even after the fact that you don't find to be very visible, just let us know. We can take a look at them, or if we need to add on to them, we can do that.
Thank you.
Yes, think about speed bump, and I don't know as an engineer what you think. There are some, I can't remember whether it's in Maryland or somewhere around, they have like an indentation in the road, but you have, what is intention?
Rumble, like us, yep.
Yeah.
That's for, with any deflection, whether it's vertical, whether it's up or down, there's, depending on, and Camelback has a slope, there's the risk of launching somebody. Dips, we don't do that. I don't know if they even do that in Maryland because we get snow here, so plowing, that plow is not gonna get that dip, and then that's gonna be packed in ice. I don't know if they do these and how they drain in these other states that do them. One more thing to mention about speed humps, and again, like I said, there's other devices, not just humps. When we say the county works together, that includes emergency response service. So I know that years and years ago, like many years ago, before I came to the county, Stevens Forest Road, people would ask for humps. The fire department, at that time, was like, this would delay our response time. That is actually another reason why sometimes communities support them, sometimes they don't. It's like, hey, it's gonna take an ambulance longer to get to my house. And, that can cause some friction between community members, or on these major collectors like Stevens Forest Road. The fire department is like, it's a long road. That is our major connector to get from Brookman to Basket Ring. If you have so many humps, it's going to slow us down by however many seconds, minutes, depending on humps.
Specifically on Stevens Forest Road, though, that's a really wide thoroughfare. Is there any chance that we could get that road narrowed? Because it's my understanding that a narrow road causes people to drive slower. So how could we narrow Stevens Forest Road, especially in front of the elementary schools, maybe slow cars down?
That's a good question. Do we have bike lanes in front of the elementary school? Because I was gonna say, with the travel lanes, bike lanes, parking lanes, they're already pretty narrow.
I don't know, it doesn't feel narrow when you're right in front of Stevens Forest Elementary School, and I don't know if we have anybody from Stevens Forest anymore, but.
I think I can speak to a little bit. I think what happens at that location, right? If you're coming from Brooklyn Parkway, once you come onto Stevens Forest Road, you have a raised median in the middle. And that raised median goes all the way through and ends just before you get to the pool.
Right.
And at that point, like now you don't have a raised median, and that's why it feels like it's much more wider. The lane width does not really change. I mean, lane width actually stays the same all the way through, and we carry it through. And I recall I've been coming to one of these meetings in the past, and the request at the time was to have a crosswalk for kids. coming from Owen Brown, Owen Brown, no.
It's the old brown path.
Owen Brown
Yeah,
to,
there's
to,
a-
to the pool in the elementary school. And that's where we put the pedestrian refuge island. That was built probably, less than 10 years ago, that pedestrian refuge island was built. We also made some changes in terms of, the lane configuration right in front of the village center here, between Santiago and, Basket Ring. We used to be the wider lanes. We took some of those lane widths away and created painted lane. So there are some changes that are made, but that's one of the reasons why it looks a little different there. But Jen is correct. I think, one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to accommodate all users on roadways. It's not just the regular traffic that we try to accommodate. When we try to provide bike lanes adjacent to a travel lane, you have 11-foot travel lane, and if you have a bike lane right next to it, now it looks like a 16 feet wide road. But the intention of having those are to accommodate other modes of transportation rather than just regular traffic on roadways. So.
Not to take away from lane width, but now that I just remembered, we're talking about pet refuge islands. One of your requests was for some kind of refuge island by the 7-Eleven that's being built. That actually is part of the developer plan. They are obligated to build a pedestrian refuge island and crossing with the signing and marking. This is the south leg of Robert Olive Place. So crossing to I think it's a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Excuse me, I got one quick question for you. I'm also Camelback. You mentioned that you were talking about the hill. I live at the bottom of that hill. I like what you're transitioning. We're getting a lot of new young families in. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I've got like 3 more on my street, okay? You were talking about the placement, as far as the hill, but there are other places where you could put a hump to slow that traffic down. I'm right at the bottom of the hill, right at 5982, where my wife puts up all the Christmas lights and you never go by. But I will tell you, I've had to actually go out and slow some cars down from my neighbors when they're walking their kids to school or when they're crossing them. It's very dangerous. And I'm telling you, it's just a matter of time. It's really, really concerning. And that's why I've been calling for everyone. That's the reason I'm here. Because, I commend Howard County. You guys did a traffic initiative about a week ago. It was really good. It was late. I worked 4 different hours and they did a lot of enforcement. Give a big kudos to that. But you got to do something with Camelback because it's getting dangerous. It's really dangerous.
Well, like I said, the new policy is being developed and the app rollout is coming in around June. That's not saying I'm not listening to you now.
No,
Just
that's
like,
fine.
if I forget, maybe humps, maybe not humps, because you kind of want to do a holistic look, not just one location on your.
Even around, around.
Generally, no hump on, you said the bottom, I don't know if that's also on the apex of the horizontal curve. We don't put them on.
No, it's you got some other places.
Great, so,
That's fine.
yeah, because you don't want someone driving and not, coming around the curve and not.
No, well aware of that.
Yeah. So there's other, there's lots of things to look at and go into that and, definitely look out for that in early summer. But if you don't, always call our office. It's, you can look it up online or you can email us. It's traffic@howardcounty.md.gov. So, but that should be coming out in June. And it's, like I said, it's a single application online. I think you can actually print it out and it just click.
Yeah, I think I wanna give Mr. Felix Fetchine a chance to speak on behalf of the county exec. If he wants to say anything before we turn to Sergeant Hannigan.
Thank you all. I'm very happy to be here tonight. I'm Felix Fetchine. I serve as Assistant Chief of Staff to County Executive Ball. So I just want to thank our Department of Public Works and our Police Department for being here tonight. We definitely want to let you know we're taking your concerns very seriously. We appreciate all the feedback you've shared this evening. Our job is to work with the Department of Public Works and the Police Department and the Office of Transportation to make sure that we're advancing your priorities and trying to make improvements to improve the quality of life. So, as Jen and Chris mentioned, we are updating our traffic calming policy to make it hopefully more accessible to residents. So those requests, you can understand what the process is like, how to go from, what improvements you want to request to what's feasible within our design guidelines. We're also putting additional funding in the budget this year to begin implementing some of those traffic calming policies. So that's really an important measure. And then in addition, we're always striving to make sure that enforcement is taking place. And so we work very closely with our police department to support police resources in recent years. A couple years back, we funded a new class of patrol officers with the police department who should be actually coming onto the streets next month. So that's 24 new officers that we funded that have gone through training and will be supporting the force. So yeah, the police department does a wonderful job, and we want to make sure that they have the support they need to continue supporting all of us. So I know Sergeant Hammond's here. I can turn it over to him for any additional details on their side. Yes, thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. I appreciate you guys staying. I know it's late, so I will do my best to get into this and not take up any of your precious time. So again, I'm Sergeant Hammond. I am with the Howard County Police Department. I am with the Traffic Enforcement Section. As Kathleen mentioned, about a year and a half ago, we split the section because up until then, it was the investigators who handled all the serious motor vehicle collisions, occasionally found time to go and do some traffic, pull some cars over. The 4 officers I have, plus a corporal, and myself are handpicked. They are very aggressive. They are some of the hardest working officers in this department. I often say I write my own mother a ticket. I thought this, Mom. She was speeding. But yeah, we understand that, it's about changing behaviors. It's about getting the point across. Warnings are great, but I find a citation usually lasts a little bit longer. So, what do? We get a lot of complaints. We have an online portal. If nobody here is familiar, I think a lot of you are, because I recognize some of the names. We receive well over 1,000 complaints every single year from throughout the county. Our job is to basically aggregate that data and then direct the resources where it's most profitable, essentially. In the sense that, we can have the biggest effect. I said profitable, we don't get money from citations, just in case anybody had any doubt about that. The fact that you guys are all here tonight, and I do see Stevens Ford, Santiago, Whiteacre, Kilimanjaro on a regular basis. We spend a lot of time in this area. So of the officers who are assigned to me, every week they get their assignments, and they're required to go out there and conduct a minimum of 1 hour enforcement on that road. They get multiple roads every single week. And I can tell you that this area has received multiple incidents of the officers. I also do what's called community complaints too. And what those are issues that can be handled by patrol officers during their calls for service. And those might be a specific intersection where there's a stop sign, or people running red lights, or a mini bike complaint, or parking violations, that sort of thing. We send those out to patrol officers as well. Just to give you some idea of the levels of enforcement that we've done. I ran the numbers for the last 6 months, and I use the area, we break our county up into beats. So this is the Edward 5 or the E5 beat. And it includes basically 29 to the west, 175 to the north, Oakland, the Oakland Mills area. 275 traffic stops. 154 citations were issued, 318 warnings. A couple of safety equipment repair orders, which are just for equipment on vehicles. I'll touch on mufflers in a minute on that. So as you can see, in 6 months, there's been a decent amount of traffic enforcement here. Is it enough? No. I mean, the fact that you guys are here tonight means that we need more. Engineering is certainly important, and it's a team effort here. We can't do it all. They can't do it all. What I would like to do is to continue, to spend our resources here. A couple other ideas I have too are the radar signboards. I know you may have seen those throughout the community or the county. Those are kind of the next best thing to the red light cameras or the speeding cameras. What those do is they will tell you your speed, and that's it. But it addresses the driver's behavior, it educates, and it makes you think, I better slow down. I didn't know I was going that fast. So those things we rotate on a regular basis. They can be helpful. They also collect data, and they can let us know how serious the problem is. The automated enforcement, I did also run those as well. In the last 6 months, we've done a total of 5 days on Kilimanjaro, Pamplona, 12 days on Kilimanjaro at Good Lion, 5 days on Kilimanjaro at Macomber, and 5 days on Kilimanjaro at Oakland Mills High School. I realized a lot of those locations are literally right next to each other. 333 violations in that time. And somebody mentioned too that those cameras, I think it was, they know where you are, or we know where they are. That's true, but we're going to get sneaky and we're going to start to move them around a little bit. We've got some new locations that we're trying out. One is we just moved to, it's up in Ellicott City, another part of the county. I believe it's responsible for about 600 violations in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, so, it's the first time it's been there, and these were not just 12 miles an hour over the speed limit, this was very excessive. So we're gonna move those around too, and most of those locations that I just mentioned are on Kilimanjaro too. I'd like to see some more on Stevens Forest, so I'm gonna make some recommendations that they spend some more time over there.
Please do.
I had a question about the number of these movable cameras. How many do you guys actually have?
7.
That's
Ugh.
ridiculous. A county this size, for the number of people who live here.
We are authorized for 8.
Oh, my gosh. By what? The Congress or?
I'm not sure if that's
Who's also?
county or state statute.
I
think that's the sound. I think the zones are, the radius, the half-mile radius from school is in the state law, but I think the number of cameras was county in it. Part of the grand negotiation,
Oh my
speed
God.
cameras were first adopted by the county.
Oh,
It's certainly an area that could be improved upon,
Yeah.
because currently Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. are the only hours that we can use. And as you know, people don't stop sleeping after 8 p.m.
A question you may not be able to answer is, the number of speed cameras and other equipment like the radar speed thing. Somebody pointed out, Columbia was built in the early 1970s, and here we are in the 2020s. The number of people living in Howard County is astronomically higher than it was then. So I was just wondering, is the authorization for equipment, has that increased to reflect the increase in people and cars and other vehicles?
Approximately 1 year ago, we received large amount of funding for additional radar and laser units. Because if an officer is not trained and doesn't have the equipment, they can pace you with their speedometer, but that's a little hard to do when you're on Kilimanjaro Road. It works a little better on 29 to 32. And then just in the budget that was released the other day, I believe there's over $200,000 for additional speed enforcement equipment coming our way. So I appreciate that, and that's gonna be a big help towards conducting speed enforcement. The other issue I wanted to mention too, I know street racers, loud mufflers, it's a huge issue, and we're dealing with this a lot right now. Unfortunately, state law says I can write you a $70 ticket and issue what's called a safety equipment repair order. All you have to do is take off the equipment, go get it inspected, and you can put it right back on.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't have much recourse in this, other than the people who lawfully follow the law. So it's an issue that I think everybody's dealing with. The street racers, we actually have had very good success with them, the larger groups, in that using intelligence, finding out where they're at, tracking them, going to the scene, breaking them up before they have a chance to really set up, cause damage, and then also writing as many citations as we can. But there's a lot more of them than there are of us. We are currently, I believe, approximately 500 officers. My traffic section, like I said, has 5. So patrol officers are certainly encouraged to go out there and conduct traffic enforcement. But just as you mentioned, the county's growing, so have their responsibilities. They are toward in many different directions. Oh, pedestrian enforcement. I know a couple of people have talked about crosswalks. November last year, sorry, not sorry if anybody received a citation in this room. We conducted a pedestrian enforcement detail. We currently have some more scheduled for next week. What these are, it involves a decoy police officer walking back and forth in the crosswalk. We used Robert Oliver at Stevens Forest. We were there for 4 hours and wrote 20 citations. It wasn't hard. It was very easy. Police officers are making the stops, very successful in court. Judges were very harsh on these defendants.
Can you just say, what was that enforcement on? That was enforcement was on people not stopping?
So, yeah, no, we were not citing pedestrians, just to
That's
clarify.
what it's
No,
like.
I'm sorry. No. We don't do jaywalking citations.
So you're stopping people who are not.
We had a police officer who was in plain clothes, who was crossing in the crosswalk, giving drivers ample time to stop. They weren't jumping out in front of the vehicles. Yes, it was an operation. And the drivers who failed to yield to the pedestrian in the crosswalk were pulled over by an officer in a vehicle and issued a citation. And we plan to do more of this.
So I'll just, David was an transportation. So that's going to be rolling out next week. So there's also being a concentrated sort of media push around that. So we found that the actual enforcement is really effective, but also all the news and information to the general public really reinforces that. So it's able to sort of multiply the impact that the police officers are doing on the ground, out in the world by reinforcing that through the media, social media in that case. So you'll see that next week as well.
Along those lines, we have a very active public information office and we have an outreach division too. If anybody ever needs a presentation, whether it be traffic safety or any other police matter, you can fill it on online request, very simple through our website. And just like the online requests for that, if you click on file a traffic complaint, you can submit reoccurring, which is, hey, they're speeding on 29, which we know, we're working on it. Or an isolated where it's this specific car. And if you can provide the tag and vehicle description, that's all we need. We don't need your information. If you give us your information, we'll let you know what the status was. But we will send a registered letter or a letter to the registered owner of that vehicle, letting them know what their driving behavior was and that we don't approve of that. And I get it, it's a letter, it's non-punitive. But I can tell you, I've got young kids who are going to be driving in a couple of years. And if I had a 16, 17, 18-year-old who was living with me, driving my car, and I got one of those letters, they would not be driving my car much longer. And unfortunately, that seems to be a lot of the population that we do deal with, young drivers. So it's an option. And also too, we just tweaked our system a little bit. We've now changed it so you can file online parking complaints too. So I know Matador and Kilimanjaro have been having some parking issues in the in-camp. And if you can file through the portal, it really helps us to track it and we can get the resources out there to address whatever issues, whether it be ongoing or isolated that you guys are having.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what was the, what website?
It's just Howard County Police website,
Okay.
hcpd.org. And file a traffic complaint.
Okay. Thank you.
We also have an email, hcpdtraffic@howardcountymd.gov, and that goes direct to our office as well too. And if anybody has any specific questions or concerns, I'm happy to hang out after as long as needed.
Well, can you answer questions?
Sure,
first?
yeah.
And then I'll see if Jessica and Jen want to say anything.
Just quickly, I was interested in what you said about having plain clothes, police officer walk through the crosswalk. Could you consider that thrown around by the giant?
We did it in November and we're going to be back again next week.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Jessica and Jennifer, neither of you have anything you want to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy.
You want to go first?
Either way. I think a lot has been said here. First of all, I want to thank you guys for all for being here because I think that is the best way to get your message across, get everybody in the same room and to really hear what's going on. I don't have a lot to add to the sort of process that they're going through on the county level. But to the extent that it is implicated by state law, we can really do a lot more. I mean, we can be here, we can listen, we can tell these folks as then we've had these conversations. And as a council member before this, I had a lot of these conversations. But we could also work on state law to the extent that helps. And so I don't think we were able to, I know we worked on that muffler issue, increasing the fines for the mufflers. I know that's not necessarily your first concern, but that is something that we worked on. I don't think it passed this year, so we'll keep working on it. But we did do an increase in the fines for racing, which will hopefully be helpful completely ban the sort of exhibition driving. So that's a couple of the things. In terms of the speed cameras, this is sort of the first I'm hearing that state law was interfering with that. And I serve on the committee, I serve on environmental transportation, and we work on those issues. And we have had bills from Montgomery County and Prince George's County and all sorts of for specific locations, for broadening where they can be. So I will get with DPW with that or with the executive's office. And I'm sure Jessica will also.
Please do.
Yeah, and find out what, if anything, in state law. I did not realize that there was a state law piece of it that was problematic. I was on the county council when we passed the law to allow for speed cameras. So I've got to figure out which hat or which people need to work on that, but we will get together. That's not yours to worry about. We will talk to each other and figure that out. So I thank you for having me here. As always, I love Oakland Mills. I grew up at the end. I grew up in technically Jefferson, but right before, actually right in Bridget Valley's neighborhood.
right by Pete's Snowball Stand, but I went to Oakland Mills, and so that's near and dear to my heart, and I always love being here, so thank you.
You mean you grew up near the grades, so.
Snowballs. I was closer to that one, but I think it's just that's the landmark.
Well, thank you all. I know it's been a long evening already, so I won't, add too much, but thank you for including me. Even though District 12A only includes a small corner of Oakland Mills, but definitely want to be involved and helpful in the solutions as much as we can. You know, as Jen was mentioning, you know, the state code piece of it, I was looking a little bit on my phone at the county code and the state code and trying to piece some things together, and on the fly in the middle of a meeting on my phone is not the best way to do that. So I look forward to a conversation to really kind of parse through what the limits are that are problematic for what we want to be able to do, you know, and happy to work together on that. I just want to thank and commend all of the residents for your persistence and your time and your willingness to really be part of the process to work for solutions, and thank the county administration for you know, for engaging in this. And as Jen alluded, you know, we're sort of here to support how we can from the state level. So please, you know, just keep us informed, and look forward to solutions soon.
Jessica, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys being here. Jen, thank you very much. We also had our PTAs here and representatives from our schools. We lost our principal. It's a school night. So, so he had to get home. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add to any of the conversation? Anything? Yeah. Got a few minutes before we,
So, good evening, everybody. Jahan Tafsadiki, I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the school system. As of January, I also oversee our transportation system for the school system, and I know that it did not come up during tonight's conversation, but one of the things that's on our radar is the traffic in the morning at arrival and at dismissal, particularly with Oakland Mills High School and middle school both being at the same time. We know that there's a lot of parents that are driving their students to school, bypassing the Blandare Park drop off and really coming directly to the school. We are working on solutions for next year. It's not just this neighborhood that's impacted by schools being on the same start time sphere. So we've made some recommendations to the Board of Education around that. I'm hoping that we'll have some resolution after next week's Board of Education meeting, and that will give us some latitude to be able to make some adjustments to certain schools. Right now, we're boxed in with what the board had approved several years ago with what time certain schools will start. So I'm really hoping that we'll get the latitude after next week's meeting to be able to then start making some adjustments so that we can stagger the times that the two schools start at. But really only 3 buses that come to Oakland Mills Middle, so it's not the bus traffic necessarily, but it's the parent and student traffic that's impacting it. So we're hopeful that we can make some changes to next year's schedule that will also provide some level of relief, because I know that that's been an issue. But other than that, I'll be happy to stick around too and answer any questions that you all may have.
we also have speeding school buses on Thunder Hill Road. So we have that fellow that drives 1174. He thinks he's out on the Indy. He doesn't realize that he's in a residential neighborhood.
So that one's been on our radar. We've been addressing it. Francesca Grant, who's our area manager for this particular area, has been on it. It's on our radar as well.
As concerned citizens, if there is a speeding, if there's a bus that is speeding, we hold our drivers to very high expectations. So if you notice that as a concerned citizen, please call it in. If you go to the HCPS website, there is a transportation page and there is a link that you can fill out to put that in as well if you'd rather do it that way. But please report that to us because we take concerned citizens and you guys it's your neighborhood and you're out there. We can't be everywhere. So we respect that.
And we do speed, but this one particular one.
So I wrote that down again, and that's what we monitor, so I will continue to, but please reach out.
Yeah, 1174.
Yeah.
That's the number.
Yeah. We go hold it.
Since the start of the school year that we know what the drivers look like, we know what their patterns are, so we can absolutely pitch in open on that.
Thank you so much, you guys.
I have a question too, from Stevens Forest Elementary School on your list.
So Stevens Forest has no regular ed buses, but,
It's
there's.
not buses, it's
So-
parents dropping kids off.
So that's,
Crossing the street with
Sure.
no crosswalks and blocking traffic and driveways that people that live there, and it's
We can work with we can work with the school administration.
yeah,
I-
one of
yeah.
And it's one of, that's been an issue in other schools as well. We're working with the police department on actually building out a training for our administrators, because the police has crossing guards in certain areas of the county.
Right.
But they only have a limited amount of crossing guards they can staff. And there are certain intersections where it really doesn't warrant a crossing guard. But what we can do is, so what we're developing right now is a training between our Office of Transportation, our Risk Management Office, and the Police Department to build out a training that administrators can have, so they can put on a vest. They can go out there and they can use the traffic direction 10, 15 minutes before school starts. To help move things along the way.
So you guys, it's been, first of all, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all, you know, this is fantastic. I know the night is running long and it's a little warm in the room. I want to thank the people online for your patience and for speaking up. And Janice, I'm sorry I didn't get to you. And Lee's mom left before we could get to her. But thank you guys for coming out. We will be putting the presentation, I'll work with Brigida and Celia. We'll get the presentation online so it's on our website. And we'll do a follow-up email to everybody's, you know, for the outcomes of this meeting. So I just wanted to make sure I said thank you to everyone. And then Felix had one more thing that he wanted to say.
Yes, I'm here with my colleague Paul Thompson, who's the county's director of constituent services. So we're gonna stick around afterwards. We have our cards. If you have any issues in the county that you need addressed, please come talk to us. We're happy to give you our information and work on your issues, whether it's traffic, speeding, or anything else. So thank you.
So before you guys go, I want to thank Brigida, our village manager. She's been working our Zoom and she helped Celia with her presentation. And Amy Carpenter up front is also on our village. She's our assistant village manager. And so she's the one who answers our doorbell. So thank you, everybody, and drive safely. Remember, we have an officer in the house. So take care. Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
So Catherine, you gotta go, okay?
Yeah.